it is a right triangle, if it is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if it's a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now there are 2 points that you need to remember. The first is that this only works for right triangles. Only for right triangles. And the second thing is that C is the hypotenuse, always. So the longest side is always your hypotenuse, and that has to be C in the equation. So if triangle ABC is a right triangle, so it's 90 degrees, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now the converse of the Pythagorean theorem asks us to reverse the Pythagorean theorem. So the first one says if it's a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the converse of that says if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then it is a right triangle. Okay, and a little note to yourself. A Pythagorean triple is 3 numbers that make a squared plus b squared equals c squared work. 3 numbers that make that work are called the Pythagorean theorem. So if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then triangle ABC is a right triangle. Okay, example 2, here we go. To satisfy safety regulations, the distance from the wall to the base of the ladder should be at least 1/4 the length of the ladder. Did Drew set up the ladder correctly? Well, we have a right triangle because we're going to hope that in construction they built the wall perpendicular to the floor. So he's going to lean this up there, and the height is 9 feet, and the width that he has is 2.5 feet. So we're going to check to see 9 squared plus 2.5 squared equals the length of the ladder. This is going to be our C over here. So 9 squared is 81. 2.5 squared is 6.25 equals C squared. And then adding 81 plus 6.25, we get 87.25 equals C squared. Take the square root of both sides of the equation to get rid of the c squared piece. And because we're already dealing with a decimal, we're going to go ahead and just punch this into the calculator and get a decimal number. And it comes out to be 9.340770. It goes on. So of course we need to round it. And one of the rules of thumb is whatever we're looking at to begin with, we can go ahead and keep our decimal rounded there. So it's because they had a 2.5 in the problem, we can go ahead and round this to 9.3. So we can round that to about 9.3. So now we take 9.3 being the length of the ladder, and we can divide that by 4 because it said we need it to be at least 1/4 the length of the ladder. So 1/4 of that length of the ladder gives us 23.25. Right, sorry. It's 2.325, not 23. That wouldn't make sense. 9.3 divided by 4 is 2.325. Rounding that is 2.3. And since he is 2.5 and that's greater than 2.3, then we can say that Drew is safe. Part B says the length of each crosspiece of a fence is 10 feet. Why would a rancher build this fence with the measurements shown? So we're going to make this 10 feet. So we can use the Pythagorean triple here, those numbers to see if they are a Pythagorean triple. So we're going to plug in 6 squared plus 8 squared equals 10 squared. 10 squared is 100, 8 squared is 64, and 6 squared is 36. 100 equals 100. So this is a Pythagorean triple. That means that this is a right triangle, and the other one will be a right triangle as well. So because it's a right triangle, it's asking, why would a rancher build this fence with the measurements shown? And a rancher would want his posts to be perpendicular to the ground. If you're one of those people who doesn't love taking the notes, remember that you can use the symbol for perpendicular if you'd like, instead of writing out the word. Go ahead and pause your video and do the triads. The first one is asking you to find the length of a missing side, and the second one is asking you to, if it is a right triangle. Thank you for pausing your video. The answer to part A is that C equals 41 centimeters. And part B, yes, it is a right triangle. 1369 equals 1369.